on YouTube and Instagram. The idea is to answer questions that. Oh, I'm not live yet. The idea is to answer questions that you might have about Dubai real estate, life in general, and we answer your questions live, right? Okay. We also answer questions that people have sent in through previously to talk about. Okay, what's cooking? What's not cooking? Okay. So let's take some questions on. Okay. Ali Khan 35675. MashaAllah. Welcome. Ali Hussein 9996. Welcome on Instagram. Are you real estate agents? Or are you, what do you call this? I'm looking at a question, okay? Okay. So let's take general questions from the public that people have already sent. Lucky to be joined. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Okay. So somebody asks, do I need to be rich or can middle class people like me actually do this? Like actually invest in real estate? This is interesting because somebody mentioned this the other day, and I find this quite. Ooh, yeah. You know what? It's quite interesting. So, what are you discussing, Ali? I'm discussing real estate in general in Dubai, life also. If you're excited and you want to talk about life as well, okay. But this is interesting because I saw this something. I saw somebody say this the other day. So Islam Tahiri joined. Assalamu alaikum, brother. So this is a question. Do I need to be rich or can middle class people like me actually do this? Okay. So let's not talk about middle class people, rich people, poor people, wealthy people. Let's talk about focus people. Okay. Let's talk about focus. Allahu Akbar. Wow. When you have focus, you can move mountains. When you got focus, you can move mountains. I'm actually hoping to have that kind of focus, right? The other day, I think there's this gentleman who worked with Steve Jobs at Apple on the original iPhone, and he was next to Steve Jobs for years and years and years. And he talks about how focused Steve Jobs was, to the extent that if you did something or you brought up something that was totally unrelated or something that Steve Jobs was not working on or was not supposed to or meant to be focusing on, he would immediately shut you down and say, why are we even talking about this? This is not even part of what we're supposed to be focusing on. Okay. So now here's the thing. If you're coming into Dubai real estate or any real estate for that matter, I think having a plan, I don't think it matters if you're rich, middle class, poor, wealthy, or non-wealthy. I think that what matters more is that you are focused on building a real estate portfolio. Like real estate is kind of like the simplest version of doing a business for a lot of people who are not ready or not able to, or don't have the time or the complete money to do a business. Real estate is pretty simple for them to start off with, right? Like I'm not making big claims, but here's the reality. Because somebody said this the other day, like if you're in Dubai, for example, and I think in general, a lot of people are spending about 150 to 100 dirhams or a little bit more or less per day. Like, you add up your coffees, you add up your weekly going out, movies, so on and so forth. And this was Kevin O'Leary talking about this, and he said if you were spending about 100 dirhams per day, I think he was talking in dollars, and if you did not do that, so I'm not saying save to become rich, but think about it in this way, right? Because this question about middle class. But if you did that 30 days, that's 3,000 dirhams multiplied by 12, that's 36,000 dirhams multiplied by 2, the 72,000 dirhams in 2 years. Like you can have some serious savings. That 72,000 you can definitely put towards some kind of property somewhere. If not Dubai, then somewhere else. Like, it doesn't have to always be Dubai, right? It could be another country, right? Get a taste of real estate. So I personally think that real estate, whether in Dubai or elsewhere, you can definitely, Hanji Bushin, kya haal hai aapka? Huh? Welcome. Kya chal raha hai? So definitely, I think you can put some money towards it and start getting going, right? Okay, so somebody says, what if nobody wants to rent my apartment? Am I stuck with it forever? No, you're not stuck with it forever. You're not even stuck with it for very long. I'll tell you why. There's no reason why an apartment's not going to get rented, okay? There's a couple of reasons, okay? your price is completely wrong. Like an apartment that rents, walaikum salam, how are you, Bushan? Uh, if you think your apartment is worth 100,000, but everybody in that neighborhood is renting out apartments at, I don't know, 80,000, 50,000, yeah, you're not going to rent out your apartment. So that's the lot of the luck, okay? But you're wrong there. Number one. Number two, if you're being too restrictive or too stringent on what kind of tenant you would accept. So if you're thinking the only kind of tenant I'm going to accept is a pink-haired, pink-eyed tenant from a certain country called Mars, then again you're going to be stuck, yeah? So the idea is that you should be market price and be reasonable when you're accepting a tenant. Nobody's asking you to accept a bad tenant, somebody who's got bad credit history, so on and so forth. But if your price is okay and the house is okay, you'll be okay. Unless inshallah, bless you, Bushan. बस एक दिन बाकी है, hear you, bless you. So unless एक दिन बाकी नहीं है, बहुत सारे दिन बाकी हैं. May God bless you with a long, healthy life, right? So ये तो बस एक दिन बाकी, तूने तो वो कर दिया यार. हाँ, फिल्म का डायलॉग, बस एक दिन बाकी है, right? Shiharan Fees 124. Assalamu alaikum, bro. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Introduce yourself, Shihara Nafiz 124. Are you an investor, an agent, and where are you from? Brother or sister? Tell us more about yourself. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So your rent, and then worst case scenario is like your apartment's not renting because let's say it's got a very bad smell from the neighborhood, right? Let's say there's a sewage plant nearby, or let's say there's a lot of road traffic. Okay, like I'm not gonna say this as a positive way, but the reality is, even if there is a sewage plant next door, which means ultimately equals smell on a regular basis, or smell or stench of bad things on a regular basis, there will be people who will still end up renting that apartment from you, okay? Because we've had those cases, right? Globally in real estate, you have a place where next door might be a factory or a sewage plant, but people will end up paying just low rent. Maybe they'll pay half, maybe they'll pay 30% discount, but they might still live there, right? So here's the thing. I think the only thing that would ultimately just completely disregard from people actually renting your apartment or a property is, God forbid, if it's haunted. If it's haunted, ooh, like, you know. So if it's got some of those issues, or if it's got a reputation of being haunted, then it might be a little bit challenging, okay? So, guys, send in your questions. I'd love to answer any questions that you might have, okay? All right. This is a good question. How do I know the agent isn't just lying to make a quick commission? Ooh, it's a tough one. Look, it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to spot if the agent's lying. But in general, if you're faced with a lot of sales techniques, like last-minute pressure, overall pressure, in general pressure, then you know that there's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Like, you know, it's not going to be so easy. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit challenging. If they're doing if they're applying too many sales tactics and they're pressuring you, then you know that, you know, there might be a little bit of a catch. So then you want to take a little break, step back, and take it from there. Number one. Number two, if you're talking to a lot of agents, a lot of others, and you're generally getting educated about a market yourself as well, then you should be okay, right? And maybe use a referral. Welcome, Real Estate Info 25. Bless you. So I'm asking Sharana Fees 124, where are you from? Are you an agent, investor? Real Estate Info 25. Thanks very much for joining. We're a little bit late today, but I appreciate you joining in and taking the time. Guys, listen, one thing I really do enjoy, and I see a lot of people on YouTube, please shoot your questions through. I'd love to answer on YouTube as well. One thing I really want to appreciate from everybody who's here is thank you very much for taking the time to actually join, right? I know a lot of people have a lot of things going on in their life. It's a Saturday, you know, you're busy at the picnic, lunch perhaps, so on and so forth. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to actually coming here and watching. Okay, I want to answer this question by Mala323, but I want to give it a little bit of time and take some smaller questions first, and then we'll get into the bigger one. Yeah. Okay, is it true there are no taxes, or is there a catch I don't know about? So yeah, Dubai generally we've got no tax. We pay a 5% VAT on services, I think, on goods sold, but the way it works, generally speaking, which I think is a very good blessing in Dubai, in the UAE, is when you go to buy an iPhone, they give you the price including of VAT. Like, so if you're buying the latest iPhone and, you know, I don't know, it's 5,000, 6,000, whatever the cost is or whatever the price is, they always give you the pricing inclusive of tax, right? Including of VAT, sorry. So you're not paying extra. We've got corporate tax now at 9%, but it's still very, very low. And, you know, there's other government services, tolls, stuff that you pay for. Thanks very much. I don't know who's sending the hearts and the smiles, but I appreciate it. For some reason, I can't tell, right? So if you want to send a heart and a smile, put it in the comments. Damir DXB Realty, mashallah. Welcome, brother. How are you? Okay, so what happens if the developer goes bankrupt while building my property? Okay, good question. I'll tell you what happens. When you're buying an off-plan under construction property in the Dubai market, the developers take money from you as per the payment plan and put it into an escrow account, okay? Into an escrow account. That escrow account stays alive and working, and money doesn't go anywhere. So the government would come in, take it over, and get somebody else to finish the project. That's why, generally speaking, Dubai, we don't have post 2008. We've not seen developers go bankrupt. Okay, this just generally is the case. Okay, I have savings, but so this is a question. I have savings, but I am afraid to. So I don't know. I can't really see who's online, who's not online. Like I don't know. This is just weird. But say hi to me, guys, to see if you guys are still there. So this is let me take this question. Okay, so I don't see a lot of Instagram questions coming on YouTube, but let me take this question. This is a question from Mala. Okay, can you edit this and put it online? This is important. Okay, because this question is from somebody who's really sent a very long question in. Mashallah. Hello. Thanks for your contents. As a first-time investor in Dubai, I'm doing my research, helped by also your contributions. Okay, thank you. I'm glad that Mala323, the contributions are helping. My impression is that the Dubai market is changing. Okay, let's see what else she's saying. The steepness in rise of selling prices is less, and selling needs to be pushed by the Dubai government. Attractive payment for first-time buyers, giving away flight tickets if you buy, suggested price reduction below comparable objects projected. Of course, the stressed prospect of price appreciation, suggested population growth. In the meanwhile, there are certain standard for acceptable prices of rent income where tenant may ask for lowering of their rent. I wonder why this pushing promotion is so badly needed by brokers, and if good products with attractive pricing don't need this. Secondary market is not promoted in my experience. I think the off-plan market is less attractive than suggested. I wonder if a correction will happen, and actually I hope for this, so I postpone investing. Answering your question in this video, I want to give you in consideration to make a video about the points in my comments above. Okay. See, here's the thing. Off-plan is not more attractive than the resale secondary market. And the resale secondary market is not more attractive than off-plan. Both have their own merits and both have their pros and cons. I'll give you just one very simple example, right? If you are somebody who needs a house to live in today, right? Let's say you've been renting for the last 1, 5, 10 years, and you want to now live in a house that you own, whether through your own full money that you've saved, through an Islamic banking facility, like, you know, kind of like an Islamic mortgage, whatever the case is. And you're ready to move now. What are you going to do? you're going to look for you're going to look for a secondary ready property. Does that make sense? So on merit and your condition, boom, right? You're looking for a ready property. You're not looking for a property that's going to be ready in 3 years. I'm not saying it's not not a possibility. You might look at everything that's ready and available, and you might actually decide that this doesn't make sense to me. I don't like what I've seen, but I like this other property that's going to be ready in 3 years, and I'm willing to wait. And everybody's situation is different. For instance, if you do end up willing to wait, and you do end up paying rent, let's say, you end up paying rent for 3 years, and that 3 years costs you anywhere between, let's say, 150,000, let's say it's 50,000 dirhams per annum rent, to 300,000, let's say if it's 100,000 dirhams per annum per rent, 500,000, let's say if it's 150,000 dirhams per rent, or 1,000,000 dirhams, let's say it's 350,000 dirhams per rent per year, right? Doesn't matter. But the fact of the matter is, if you're quite wealthy and quite well off, you might be able to wait for that apartment or property or villa for 3 years and still pay rent. Or you might be in a situation where you say to your mind and finances, and you say, I'm not going to be able to pay, or you are not going to be able to pay rent somewhere and buy this property off plan, right? So you have to go and buy a ready property. You see the merit there, right? It just makes sense. There's other people who are like, we're going to move to Dubai in 3 years' time. We don't want a ready property today. We want it to be brand new, and we want the payment facility that Offplan provides us today, right? This off-plan market at some stage will go away as Dubai gets built and built and built, and then there's not a lot of land that's allowing, and then you have to come in and buy under ready property, right? But somebody sitting in abroad, and they're thinking, okay, well, I could do this, and I could do it in this way, so on and so forth, and I've got this money coming in, and I'll be able to pay all of this money one by one, right? Instead of doing it in one shot, right? Does that make sense? Right? I'm just playing with the filters on Instagram. Okay, very interesting. Okay, a lot of I think there's a lot of filters here. 8K, a lot of light. Makes me look very interesting. As if I'm at the beach. Okay. So, Mala, does that make sense, right? Does that make sense? And all these other things, yes. Like in my personal opinion, generally speaking, when you've got a lot of people trying to give you a lot of freebies to enforce or force your decision to buy, I think those are small, teeny beeny red flags, and you want to be a little bit careful with that, right? Again, when you talk about, hey, the prices are too high, the prices are too low, what you need to be thinking about is not the prices only and the market only. You're supposed to be thinking around value as well. Like, can I actually go into the market and actually buy value, right? Does that make sense? Okay. And last but not the least, brokers, agents, developers. Look, it is a business at the end of the day. They are promoting properties that they want to sell, and it's their business. It's kind of like if you go to Disneyland and you see all these people that have food trucks and they're trying to sell you food. Well, yeah, that's their job. They're trying to sell you food because they want to make money selling you things. So same thing applies to Dubai. There is a demand. The market's healthy, right? There's an ecosystem around the market, which means if you invested 5 or 6 years, if you invested in the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005, 2006, today your property has given you 6 to 7 times in return in terms of rental income and the capital appreciation. And it applies to other properties that you've bought 5, 6, 7 years ago as well, right? So the bottom line is you buy based on value. There is a good ecosystem. Don't get sold one dream or the other, okay? All right, let's take one last question, and then we can sort of like close off this live today. We're going to keep a smaller, shorter live, all right? So somebody says, I have savings, but I'm scared to risk it all. What if I lose everything? So this is make a short out of this as well. Okay, so here's a question I've received. A person's asking, they've got savings, but they're afraid to risk it all and lose everything. I'm going to tell you something. You know what? One of the reasons for fear is uncertainty. and lack of knowledge. And I take you back to 2004 or 2005, 2004, and there was a Islamic scholar who was giving a short talk, like I think it was a 15-20 minute talk, and I remember that talk so clearly, like it was etched in my brain, right? And this is what he said. Hi, Assalamu alaikum, Jamal, how are you? This is what he said. He said, for the ignorant person, I'm not calling you ignorant, for the ignorant person in general, the world around feels like, walaikum salam, Jamal, world around feels like as if you're standing in the middle of a forest with dense leaves and trees branches covering every single part of it, in the middle of the night, on a moonless night, so that even if there was any light other than the moon, it's not coming through, and you're standing there in absolute complete darkness. That is the situation of the ignorant person, right? And thus, for that ignorant person, any step becomes a step of uncertainty and full of fear. Why? He may step on a scorpion. He may step on a twig. He may even the twig, when it breaks and creaks, will make noise that will scare him. He may step into a ditch, a water. Maybe there is no ground in front. Maybe he's on the end of a cliff, right? Maybe he steps on the tail of a dangerous animal. And that is the way of somebody who is ignorant. Ignorant not meaning in a demeaning way, but ignorant lack of knowledge, right? In a lack of knowledge way. And then he goes on to say that from that person who's standing in the middle of a forest, dense forest, thick leaves and branches and trees covering every single part, so that no water, no light on a moonless night, but still other than that, no light coming in. Majid bin Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum. His ignorance or lack of knowledge thereof leads him to uncertainty, which leads him to being very fearful, which leads him to be very stressed. And knowledge is the cure, right? So he was talking in the Islamic context, and he meant Islamic knowledge, because Islam came to guide us. So if you have that knowledge, it guides you with your day-to-day affairs, right? And as well as complicated situations. So applying that same thing to real estate as well, if you are scared of losing it all, the reality is you're not scared of losing it all only because of being scared, but that source of being scared is being fed into because you have uncertainty and have no knowledge about the market. How do other people do it? The other people, they learn, they understand the good, the bad, the ugly. Not everything's great. And then they implement those things, right? Then they choose how to work around those. They choose how to understand those. And then they choose how to invest in real estate or other assets. And when you invest in these assets, obviously at that time, you are then going to be in a position to make a better decision. Jamal, being told don't qualify for golden visa, 2 of my properties, 2 different Emirates. Maybe that's the case, brother. Yeah, unfortunately, maybe you want to get a property in the same Emirate, or you want to talk to a great company that does a lot of golden visas. They'll know exactly, and if they're telling you, then most likely it's going to be the case. All right, guys, I'm going to make this short today, as I promised, but I'm glad that I was here. You guys were here. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and see you guys next Saturday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is a very interesting client story. One of my favorites. The entire process was a lot of fun. I hope it was a lot of fun for him as well. This gentleman was absolutely new to investing in the Dubai real estate market, and he was looking for the best ROI. Before he ever spoke to me and my team, he had already interviewed a lot of other advisors and agents. Having watched some of my YouTube videos, he ended up signing up on our VIP elite program, where we take people from start to finish for their investments And then we started the process of doing the strategy development for him, and then implementing and finding the right properties. We found a very good investment property and a home. I wish him all the best. I believe it's about helping the client find the best properties, and we can invest in the client's future.